Hello, folks, and welcome to Think Bowling. For our third installment with Phil, Phil will talk about his time at 900 Global and the reasons why he left. So let's bring Phil on and learn a little bit more.
Hey, Bill.
Hi, Phil Cardinale. How are you?
It was interesting. So part three.
Yes, part three.
My whole life is in parts, but go ahead.
So you leave Dynathane
Yep.
after EBI purchases it. Well,
Back to Columbia.
Yeah, you're in between Columbia and Dynathane at the time. Columbia sells off to EBI, and then you start a new company, 900 Global.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Well, so I go back to Columbia, and then they decide they're going to sell all the brands. Dynathane, Circle was in there, Track and Columbia, and EBI buys everything, allegedly. So, they come down and they want to buy the plant, and they don't want to take everything out of the plant. And we said to them, "You guys own this. What do you want to do with it?" He said, "Let the Hermans sell it. We don't want to pay the fees to take it out and cart it away and all." So we looked at the factory and realized there was enough pieces at the factory to almost put a factory together. Almost.
Yeah.
I know. Everybody shakes their head. So what we did was we hired the Columbia employees that worked at the factory.
Yeah.
Now, I'll give you an example. At the time I was probably in the industry 20-something years, and I would have been low on a totem pole in seniority with the people that worked at the factory. They knew everything about the factory. So we hired all of the big guys, the hot shots, the foremans for each department, and got them in a room and said, "We want to put the factory back together. What do we need to do?" And they told us what pieces to buy from Mr. Herman, and we bought it. Now, we were missing a couple of key components, like the lathes that were down there were fantastic lathes, and Ebonite took them. But we hired the guy that built the lathes.
Yeah.
So it took him about 6 months from start to finish to build the lathes. But in the meantime, we had gone to Storm, and I took a core that I had designed, actually 2 cores I designed, and said, "Can you guys build these for us?" And the interesting part about it, when we closed the factory, we had all of the core molds for the next ball that Columbia was going to launch at the factory, and Ebonite didn't want them because they didn't use that technology. So we kept the core molds most of them were cores that I had designed at Columbia or at Track back that far. So we take the cores and we give them to Ebonite, that's a Storm, and we say, "Can you pour us some balls?" So Storm pours us, our first ball was the break. And we did very well with that. Now, the problem we had originally was a little bit of disagreement on how we're going to run this company, Global, which I was already at odds about how we're going to do it. They wanted to sell direct. The problem with direct is you got pro shops. Well, you guys know you're in that business. You're in that consumer business. Collecting for onesies and twosies is brutal.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a ball company. So eventually I went out and we started selling to the distributors, and the company's doing very, very well. The problem I had was the quality was not getting any better. And I went to work every day and argued about quality. It was never getting any better. And then there comes a time where the other guy that started the company with me decides he wants to move the factory to another side of town. He's going to buy a building and move the factory. And I'm like, I'm not sure it's a good idea. So I decide I'm going to leave. And in the time before that, and when he moves the factory, I start the brand Radical, and I'm still using stuff I have there and having them build balls. But again, I'm fighting quality. But I had negotiated it where I wasn't responsible for X amount of the seconds, and the ones I did buy were cheaper, so it worked out pretty good. And the global brand grew so quickly because of the following I had with Track and Dynathane.
Yeah.
So we still had the same people. But again, we had issues with how the stuff was being built and where the money was going. It really wasn't, I wasn't comfortable with it. So I decided I'm going to start my Radical brand out of that. But I had to stay there for about 6 months or so. after the fact when I decided to leave to finish out my commitments, with the global brand. But they had, the outer shells were thinner. They were not centered. I mean, all of these problems. And as a new company, global, the new company, you couldn't really survive that. Yeah. You make a bad batch of 500 balls, you throw them in the trash, and what do you do with them? And the company was not making enough money, and they didn't have the backing to sink into it. Again, we were working with tools that we had. It just got crazy. It got to be a very confusing time. Although we were doing well, it was just the market perceived it as doing very, very well, but production-wise, it was expensive. And that's not a good recipe.
So, backtrack a little bit. When 900 Global starts, wasn't it called 300 Global?
Yeah. So 900. Well, let me go back a little bit further. So Bob Reed comes down to decommission the plant, and I'm sitting in a conference room with him, and he's going to now interview people that he might want to keep. So I'm setting up interviews with him for him in the conference room, while we're decommissioning the plant. So at the end of it all, he says to me, I really don't have anything for you. And I said, that's all right, Bob. I have another plan in mind. Well, the other plan was to take what they left and make a new factory out of it, which sort of sent a little message about, if you're going to screw around, make sure you get it all out of there or don't get it out at all.
Yeah.
So we built a factory in the exact same spot that the other factory was. Literally in the same exact spot. So what happened was we started out and we were going to call it 300 Global because we were at the Columbia 300 plant.
Yeah.
Well, literally 3 weeks later, we get an email or a registered letter from their attorneys that in their eyes, it was a conflict and that the name was too close to the Columbia 300 name and that they were going to take us to court. And we were just starting the company. We didn't have a lot of money. I didn't want to have a lawsuit.
Yeah.
So we changed it from 300 to 900, like literally in a day.
Yeah.
It wasn't that big a deal. But for them, it was. So they were, what it was? They were more pissed off about what happened rather than the reason for it, And we didn't do anything wrong. We told them, you take all the equipment. You guys can have all the equipment. It's yours. You bought it.
Yeah.
No, we don't want it. You guys can sell it. So we bought it.
Yeah. So another thing that you touched on was the lathes down there, and they were very unique lathes. In the fact
Absolutely.
They lathed one side of the ball, it dropped down into another lathe, and then it lathed the other side of the ball.
Yeah.
All in one shot, and then it was out and done. Right.
Right. You can do the first ball took you 22 seconds. And after that, you were doing 2 balls every 22 seconds. And this was built by a guy, a worker.
Yeah.
Designed it and built it. So you can't buy it.
Yeah.
It fed by itself. All you did was put the balls up on the rail.
Yeah.
And it rolled it down. It cut the x-axis, dropped down, turned it, cut the y-axis, and then it was on its way through the ramp, down the rails.
I had heard about that when I went to visit Ebonite, from Chad Murphy, who told me about this lathe and how it worked and everything.
Right.
And then when I went to 900 Global and I toured the plant, I saw that it was there, and I said to Nick at the time, I said, like, how did that come about? And he said, the guy that made those still works here.
Right. That's the guy we hired.
Yeah.
Right.
He just found the parts again and remade everything. And
that's right.
Yeah. It was very unique to watch.
Yeah, they're worth about $250,000 each. Now, when they're built.
Yeah.
We built it from scratch. He went and bought all the electronics. He put it together himself.
Yeah.
Incredible, right? And it made us the most efficient finishing plant in the industry.
Yeah.
We had it. And Ebonite bought the ones and kept them. I don't know what they did. They probably used them there. I don't know. But
that's what they sold for scrap, honestly.
Did they really?
That's what I heard.
Unbelievable. 22 seconds. You're doing 2 balls in 22 seconds after the first ball.
Yeah. I never. That's a whole nother thing. So,
I understand.
Yeah. So, how many people when you started 900 Global? How many people were actually there?
Well, we hired probably about 30 people total to get the factory set up, and maybe a little less than that. We had a core area with 5 or 6 people in it. and then we had a pouring area with maybe five people, 6 people. Then we had myself and a couple other people in the office, and then a warehouse crew. So that was it. I mean, it wasn't monstrous,
Yeah.
But again, I had enough connections to hit the ground running, where we were doing really well. We had good product, and we had storm builder balls and transitioned over to ours.
Yeah.
But it worked out really good. And the resins we were buying, we bought them from Storm's resin supplier.
Yeah.
So that was good. Worked out pretty good.
I remember the Black Break when it came out. That was an amazing first ball from a company that really put you
Yeah, thank you.
gave everybody notice.
Yeah, that was my design for Columbia. That was supposed to be the Columbia's or track. I'm not sure where we were going to put it. That was supposed to be the last ball that was the ball we did right before we closed. We never got to make it.
Yeah.
So that was easy. That's a fantastic ball. Yeah. So I took that core design, moving fast forward for a minute, modified it a little bit, and built it as the Conspiracy for Radical. And that's Radical's #1 selling ball, was the Black Conspiracy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we still have people calling to ask, about that ball.
Yeah, it's a great ball. It's a fantastic ball.
So, I mean, obviously, you explained a little bit of how you gained a foothold in the market. Basically, you had used all your industry contacts from before and making a really good ball.
Yeah.
And you touched on it a little bit as well as with the thin shell issue.
Yeah. That was, it was a decision that was made to save some money. So they went to a bigger outer core, reduced the size of the shell. And again, that's the finance side of the business where I had my problems. Yeah. You can't scrimp. Yeah. And again, it's something that's going to haunt you. It's going to come back later on and bite you in the butt.
Yeah.
And
then your best-selling ball during that time
at that Global was the Break.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had a few of them.
Yeah.
And then we had the Bounty program where you had if you shot 300, you got a piece of the 50,000.
Yeah.
That was a good marketing plan. That helped us a lot. When things were going in the right direction, except, when you're on the inside and you see other things happening, this can't last.
Yeah.
And I got out. I mean, I decided I'm going to build some balls here until I can figure out what I want to do and how I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
So it was interesting.
So we can, I think that covers your time at 900 Global.
Yeah. We can go into the Radical thing if you want.
Yeah. Well, so
how that happened.
We'll go to that. That'll be section 4 for this. So.
Section. Okay, good. There we go.
Okay.
Apparently, I have a hard time keeping my jobs because I'm on the 4th one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's four big steps in the industry, and I want to make sure that we give enough time. And this is This is the big baby coming up here. You're Radical.
It really is. It's amazing how quickly. Yeah. And how successful it is right now. Yeah. Okay. It is.
So we'll get to that in the 4th section. So.
Okay, perfect.
All right.
That concludes our time with Phil on 900 Global. Be sure to tune in for section 4 when Phil talks about his time at Radical and what's going on there. If you like the content, be sure to click like and subscribe. And if you have any companies that you'd like to find out more about, leave them in the comments below. Thanks for watching.